We will call the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners, September 6th, 2022 County Board meeting to order, and we will begin with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would anyone like to move to approve the regular meeting proposed agenda? There's no changes that we're, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. With the Commission's permission, we'd like to add an item 5.10, so it'd be 5.10, and that would be approval for Veteran Service Officer travel. It was sent to you on Friday for your review. And again, we'll make that item 5.10. It's the paper copy you have might have listed it as 2.17, but if we can do it as 5.10.
Okay.
I'll move the amended agenda, Madam Chair.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the amended agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passed. Now we can move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. I can't remember, can I ask for a discussion on this one or not? I don't think so, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Okay, now we can go on to announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Just a few short announcements. Reminder for the board, the AMC Policy Conference Committee is coming next week. It's the 14th through the 16th. If you haven't signed up and you'd like some assistance, just let Keisha or me know, and we'll assist you with that. Second is a note that on the 13th, so the day before, we do have the Soil and Water Conservation District Tour of conservation practices. We will post that as a potential open meeting if 3 of you attend, so that we're covered for that. And again, if you need assistance with registration and meal selection, please let us know. That is from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., so it's about half day plus there. Third, just a note also that coming up on the end of September, on Thursday, September 22nd, from 9 to 11 here at the Government Center is a Safety Science 101 training offered by collaboration of law enforcement, city, county attorneys, public defenders, members of the bench, community corrections, health and human services, and city and county staff. We're also inviting elected officials, school personnel, guardian ad litems, and such to attend. This is an effort to give insight and ideas on how we can best respond to our crises, or also with our system partners when a critical incident occurs, specifically in the area of child welfare and child protection. So it should be a very interesting training. Again, if you haven't signed up and are interested, just let Keisha or I know, or you can contact Amanda directly. And then last but not least, just a note, the Greater MSP organization informed us on Friday that the regional collaborative effort to promote bioinnovation in the Metro under the federal Build Back Better Regional Challenge was not successful. They were not selected, even though they're one of the finalists. However, Greater MSP intends to make that a major initiative going forward, and I'm sure our EDA will be talking about that as well coming up. That's it for announcements.
Okay. Now we can go ahead to open forum. Do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 4 people signed up.
4 people? Okay. So do you want to read the open forum criteria?
The purpose of the open forum section of the county board meeting is to allow public input and/or information to be presented to the board that does not require action by the board. It is requested that speakers refrain from personal attacks of any kind against another person, commissioner, or employee. It is requested that speakers refrain from campaign-style presentations. The time limit is 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 5 speakers per open forum. The time limit may be shortened or extended at the discretion of the board chair. The open forum may be continued following the conclusion of the regular board business meeting agenda items. It is requested that all input and information be addressed to the Board of Commissioners and not to members of the audience. Speaker handouts are public information. The county may make copies of such handouts for the public as needed, and the county board chair will ensure that the open forum policy is followed.
Okay, who's our first?
Our first speaker is Steve Nelson of Elk River, speaking on election integrity.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I hope everybody had a good Labor Day holiday. Commissioner Dolan, it's really good to see you. I'm glad to have you here, and I hope you have a full and speedy recovery.
Thanks.
What's in my heart is I'm being called to ask, what does it take? What does it take? I got on the website. After our last talk here, we had Rick Weibel in. I saw that the commissioners and the county went in, updated the website, put a bunch of election integrity stuff there, and it was good to see, but the substance of it was missing for anyone that knows what's going on. You know, we've shown that the certification process is flawed. We've shown that the Secretary of State's process for their certification is flawed, but the information was presented like that's not the case. I understand that the Secretary of State has the source code, but the counties don't have the source code. And I'm going to share an experience for what we do in my business. So I'm run a Wolf Material Handling Systems here in Elk River. We actually are a nationally known waste-to-energy material handling company. We're sought out by the Department of Defense, Department of Energy to come and do projects in energy conversion. Right now we're doing a lot of sustainable aviation fuel projects. In that, we have to have systems that run autonomously on the front end of the plant to feed those processes, whether they're biorefineries or power plants. Those systems are hardwired. We are not allowed to use any kind of wireless systems because those can be hacked, which could bring down an entire power plant or a biorefinery. When we do that, we create those programs and we create a source code, or we create a code that we keep as a record as a system document. And whenever there's anything that goes wrong with a plant like that and we go out to troubleshoot it, we immediately compare that with what we left them with. Now, does the county have any way to do that? Steve Simon having the source code for the programs for these machines doesn't do the county any good because we have no way to see if anything has happened to that since then. And I guarantee you, if a power plant, we have people going in and changing our programs all the time. Some of those are anticipated, some of those are not anticipated. But I think that that's something that the county needs to consider, along with producing the vote records and things that are a part of these systems so that the community can see that and have assurances that these things are working properly.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Next, we have Kari Watkins of St. Cloud talking about election concerns.
Good morning. Thank you. Last Friday, September 2nd, I emailed the commissioners and the auditor treasurer a demand for records retention. I also mailed a copy, and today I'm presenting it to you at this meeting to make a matter of public record. I want to make you aware that I am one of several plaintiffs across the state of Minnesota involved in a civil lawsuit against the Secretary of State, Steve Simons, requesting the same. Next, I would like to address the vulnerability within optical scanners that has come to my attention. Students at the University of Michigan Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science were able to accomplish the following, and I quote, Using computer vision techniques, we developed an algorithm that automatically and seamlessly manipulates ballot images, moving voters' marks so that they appear to be votes for the attacker's preferred candidate. Our implementation is compatible with many widely used ballot styles, and we show that it is effective using a large corpus of ballot images from a real election. We also show that the attack can be delivered in the form of a malicious Windows scanner driver, which we test with a scanner that has been certified for use in vote tabulation by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, end quote. Further in the study, it shows that the ballots that were most successful in using this type of manipulation were from Dominion. The way to catch this type of manipulation is to hand tabulate the ballots and check against the electronic system tape, as was to be done in Haven Township, but did not happen at the direction of the auditor, treasurer, and county attorney. I have the study for you to read for yourself. Finally, in August, Rasmussen Reports asked the question, how concerned are you about preventing cheating in elections? The results vary to somewhat concerned were at least 73%. You can see the breakdown in a document I am enclosing. And that's the end. Thank you.
Next, we have Gary Tonsager of Elk River speaking on Dominion voting machines.
Welcome.
Good morning. My name's Gary Tonsager. I live here in Elk River. On May 24th of 2022, this year in DeKalb County, Georgia, voters went to the polls to vote on a local commissioner's race in District 2 between Lauren Alexander, Marshall Owen, and Michelle Long Spears. The end result of the Dominion machines showed Lauren Alexander received 34.7% of the vote, Marshall Owen received 41.35% of the vote, and Michelle Long Spears received 23.98% of the vote. In Georgia, if one candidate doesn't get above 50% of the vote, a runoff election is automatically held between the top two candidates, meaning Michelle Long Spears was cut out of the race. But Michelle Long Spears felt odd about the numbers, so she visited precincts to just double check the tallies. Guess what? She noticed at some of the precincts she didn't receive a single vote. But how is this possible for a candidate that had 24% of the vote totals finds a precinct she didn't have a single vote? Well, statistically alarming, the real surprise came when she realized there wasn't one cast vote for her in her own precinct. That same precinct where both her and her husbands both voted for her. Spears immediately demanded a hand recount of the results and got one. On June 1st, the results were released, and the difference between the Dominion machine count and the hand count was shocking. After the hand count, Lauren Alexander gained 355 votes, Orson lost 1,298 votes, and Spears gained 3,630 votes, making her the new runoff candidate. And here's the best part. When you add them all up, the hand count shows 2,810 votes more than the Dominion machines reported on the 24th. This is huge. In a small county where a commissioner's race of 15,500 total votes, the Dominion machine tally was shorted by nearly 3,000 votes. What does this say about all the other elections that were conducted on those very same Dominion machines? The proof is that the machines cannot be trusted, and if Spears had not sounded the alarm, no one would have ever known. In other words, if you don't look for the bodies, you're never going to find the bones. And by the way, we requested a public hearing for September 13th. I wish that you would reconsider that based upon some of the findings that we're receiving now. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Terry Dickinson of Big Lake speaking on CVR, which is cast vote records.
Welcome.
Good morning. This is a screenshot from the Dominion manuals. During the recount, it is important for officials to account for digital adjudication activities. This can be done via the adjudication activity log, the audit mark. To compare the results of the manual tally against the identified ballots, counties may use the cast vote record export or the election summary report filtered by batch precinct. Counties may find, in a different part it says, it lists other reports, and listed among them, again, is the cast vote record. We have submitted proof that the cast vote record exists. So, on April 25th, to Diane Arnold and Tim Simon of the County Attorney's Office, we submitted a request for the cast vote record in the raw data file in electronic format. The next day, April 26th, they responded, "Are you referring to abstract of votes cast?" So the next day, April 27th, we responded, "No, we are looking for the cast vote records that details how each ballot is interpreted. We are looking for the certificates and the actual forms that were filled out during the public process of the post-election review, and we are looking for the documentation of how these results were communicated to the Secretary of State's office." So on the 27th, again, Mr. Simon from the county attorney said, "There is not a document called the cast vote record." Screenshots from the Dominion manual that the county officials prepare. There is an abstract of votes cast, and there is a post-election review summary, which apparently we didn't refer to specifically enough. He did quote our request, but so he wanted to know again if we were looking for a different topic. So I emailed him back on the same day saying, "Rick can be at the Sherburne County Government Center at 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, April 28th, to show you how to access your files. This will make it much easier for everyone. The information is important, and we, the citizens, have a right to see this. Our tax dollars pay for the system, and we have a tight schedule. The cast vote record file export processes are in the Dominion manual, and it is a standard in all election equipment. Here's the federal standard," and I submitted the website link, so he could just click on it. Apparently, you have access to it via the CF file records, the CF cards, the main system that imported the data, or on each tabulator. The vendor can help you. Otherwise, Rick can come in and show you how to retrieve it if you give him access to the main system. That might be the way to go. And then I quoted again the actual statements from the Dominion manual that explains where the cast vote records are. Now, we didn't receive this. Our request kind of dropped off, and so I resubmitted it last Monday. We still haven't received it, and we would like our public hearing, please. We have not had a response from you.
That is all of our speakers, Madam Chair.
I didn't hear. I didn't hear what you said.
That is all of our speakers.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So now we can move on to our regular agenda. And item 5.1 is to receive an initiative foundation update. And we have Carl Newbanks.
Yes.
Welcome.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for a little bit of your time this morning. I always appreciate the opportunity to come and give a quick update on the Initiative Foundation's activities and investments in Sherburne County. It is the financial contributions from our cities and counties that position us to be a nimble and responsive resource to the region. Again, whether that's responding to flooding in Randall or tornadoes in Eagle Bend, or working to offset the negative impacts of a global pandemic here in central Minnesota, we're happy to be able to respond quickly and meet the region's needs. What you have in your packet is our Sherburne County Impact Update. These are numbers that are the totals since 1986 through 2021. Total contributions received from within Sherburne County is $1.4 million, and the foundation's investment back into Sherburne County over that time period is $8 million. And we always like to point out, we just kind of calculate a rough ROI number just a little bit further down the sheet, but the return on investment for every dollar contributed from within Sherburne County, not just from the county itself and the cities, but individual contributions, other fundraising that's done. The ROI is $5.75 for every dollar raised within Sherburne County. So we're happy to continue to do that great work here. A little farther down your sheet are some more totals. 562 grants for $2.6 million in Sherburne County, 350 scholarships totaling a little over $300,000. Again, we do lending also as part of our work. We're a community development financial institution. Mostly we work with local banks that would come to us and say, we've got a great project, we'd love to see it happen, we're a little uncomfortable funding the entire project. Would the foundation be willing to step in and fill the gap? Because we don't want to compete with banks and financial institutions, but we want to partner. So over the years, we've worked on 71 loans in Sherburne County, totaling $4.5 million, leveraging $29 million in external funding, and creating or retaining 712 jobs in Sherburne County. And then a little farther down here, you can see you've got the project list. Oh, you just jumped away from it there. Yep, there it is. The project list, just kind of listing projects or things that we funded that exist in Sherburne County. You might see some folks listed there and might say, well, I'm not so sure that's actually located in Sherburne County. Sometimes folks will tell us, well, we do serve Sherburne County, and so we want to include them on this list as well. You might also notice, in particular this time around, if you look closely, I think you might see some individuals named on this list, which is typically not something we would be allowed to do. But because we were in a global pandemic and because we were in an emergency kind of a situation, and DEED asked us to facilitate their grants to childcare providers, then we facilitate those grants through, and some of those were to home-based providers, and so those grants show up on this list as grants to individuals, but normally that's not something we would do, and I think all those emergency powers, so to say, just expired, so we're kind of back to normal grant making only to nonprofit organizations, no longer making grants to individuals and businesses, so would like to point that out as well. So those are the aggregate numbers since 1986, and I thought I would just provide just some numbers for the most recent year. In 2021, the foundation facilitated 39 grants in Sherburne County for $265,000. I should point out these numbers won't exist anywhere on your documents there. You've got the totals, but I've got the most recent year here. 12 of those grants were emergency relief and recovery grants for $135,000. Again, DEED had asked the initiative foundations to facilitate their Main Street emergency program. Most of those were $10,000 grants to businesses that we were able to facilitate for them. We did provide one emergency child care grant for $5,000 through the governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. And we provided 3 grants in partnership with Wells Fargo for $30,000 to businesses. And I always like to highlight, this is one of the ways that we feel like we really bring value to the region. Wells Fargo actually came to us and said, would you like some money for emergency business loans for pandemic relief? We responded back and said, no, we don't feel like anybody in business needs another loan for emergency relief. We'd like for you to direct this money to us for grants. We'd like to give just direct operating grants as relief to businesses across our 14 counties. Wells Fargo had initially, I think, approached us with $1.5 million that they were wanting to send out as loans. So they replied back just a few weeks later and said, yeah, you're right. We're going to give you that money. We want you to disperse it as grants, not loans. Please do so. And we feel like that's, again, one of our strengths is going out and finding that money outside the region, bringing it into the region, and putting it to work. We were able to do the same thing with the Otto Bremer Trust, who had approached us and said, we have kind of a bit of funds. We'd love to see it go as business loans. We replied back to them and said, businesses really just need grants and direct relief right now. We're not interested in doing any more lending like that. If you would release it to us as grants, we'd be more than happy to pass it through. And they responded back as well and said, yes, please, here's $2 million. Would you direct it to grants to businesses in the region for emergency relief? Which we did. Part of that project, we were also able to turn to nonprofit relief. We felt like nonprofits were a little left out of emergency relief funds, and we were really excited to take a big chunk of the funds from Otto Bremer and pour it into nonprofits, making significant grants. Usually our grants to nonprofits are between $5,000 and $7,000, but for several nonprofits through this Otto Bremer grant fund that I mentioned, we were able to make grants of between $50,000, $60,000, and even $75,000 to nonprofits in the region. One of those is the Big Lake Area Food Shelf. We were able to give them a grant of $55,000 to add a freezer, I think, and to increase their space. Their report back to us is that's going to increase their capacity by 25%, the amount of folks they can serve. So we're happy to have, again, went out of the region and, so to say, grabbed that money, brought it in, put it to work, and really done some transformative work with it. So happy to report that. Our lending in 2021, we did 2 loans totaling about $70,000, retaining 6 jobs. And so we're happy to see lending activity pick back up. Usually we'd like to do more, but because of the pandemic, a lot of folks have held off projects, et cetera. We're starting to see that pick back up, and more, like I say, those gap projects that we can get involved in starting to come back around. We continue our investment in Becker to help them plan and work through the Sherco decommissioning in their town. We've made about $400,000 in investments there that have allowed them to leverage, I think, $26 million in state bonding and other funding from other organizations. So we're excited about the work we're doing there. We're going to continue that work. We've also received funding from the McKnight Foundation and several other foundations to kind of continue that energy transition work across the region. Some folks have asked me recently what has kind of been the total of our emergency relief and recovery work across the region. I thought I would just offer those numbers to you, and then I'll get out of your way today. But if you combine all of our emergency relief projects with DEED, our own grant making, the emergency grant making of our partner funds in your region, since 2020 all the way through June 30th of 2022, total emergency relief and recovery in Sherburne County has been about $1.3 million. And again, always appreciate your support. I think you have our most recent request for funding for 2023. And again, that support really helps us be positioned to jump and meet these needs as they arise. So again, we appreciate your support, and I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I think, thanks for your presentation, and wondering what is the best way, or how do people hear about you? If you can talk about that a little bit. I know you have partnerships with our county and with different stakeholders, but just what's the best way for people to get connected to the Initiative Foundation? And I'm assuming it's kind of word of mouth.
Right.
But
yeah, absolutely. It's probably, I think it's our biggest challenge. We always say sometimes we feel like we hear about things too late. We're just not connected to enough folks. Again, we're serving 14 counties, so everybody from Todd and Wadena and Stearns all the way to Wisconsin. That's kind of our block of Minnesota. So we try to get out and meet as many people as we can. I did bring a copy of IQ Magazine. It's free. You can get it twice a year. You just go to our website and subscribe, and I would tell people, if you want to be connected to us and really hear what we're doing and how you can apply for a grant or get connected to some of our funding, then the best way is probably just to get online and subscribe to IQ.
yeah, I'm a huge supporter of you. I appreciate the work. Way back when I first moved to Princeton, the Initiative Foundation, we were one of your first early childhood initiatives.
Yes.
Way back then. So I just really appreciate the work you do in our communities and want to spread that word. So I think these presentations are great, and for all of us to know when we're out and about meeting with different people to keep you in the back of our minds is important. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Keep us in mind. Don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's any way we can help.
Thanks, Carl.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'll just echo what Lisa said. You know, over the years, there's been several little community projects, planning projects that you have provided money for that without that, the opportunity would not have happened. So we appreciate that.
Happy to do it. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we can move on to item 5.2, which is to receive an update from Central Minnesota Jobs and Training. And we have Barb Caffey with us. Hello, welcome.
I'm going to try to go back one. There we go. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, and also guests. My name is Barb Chafee, and I'm the CEO for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, serving an 11-county area, including Sherburne County. And I've been a resident here for over 30 years, so I know we have another resident sitting over here too, so many residents. So thank you for having us today. My staff and I are honored to present to you today in person. And we are so happy to be in this facility and feel so, some normalcy. It feels normal to be here, so thank you. With the COVID pandemic, we weren't able to see you in person. We had to come virtually, but this is really nice, so thank you. Well, year 2022 marks our 38th year together as partners in workforce development, supporting members of Sherburne County looking for work and local businesses in need of qualified workers. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services serves youth, adults, dislocated workers, MFIP, DWP clients, veterans, diverse populations, local businesses, and much, much more. Today, you will hear client success stories from Sherburne County and the impact and success of our great partnership that we have over these many years. Whoops, need to go back one. Okay, my agenda is really twofold, and the first part is bringing the business part of it. And it is my job as CEO and Tricia's job to actually bring you the annual fiscal audit, the annual program performance report, and also our commercial insurances, which we do have an upgrade in, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But the most important part of our day is really what's happening right here in Sherburne County, and my staff will be presenting those things. These are the 11 county commissioners that reside on our Joint Powers Board. As you can see, I would love to present each one of them to you, but today I'm going to pause and recognize Commissioner Lisa Phoebe for her exemplary leadership on the Joint Powers Board. Year 2022 marks her 5 years of service on the Joint Powers Board for Central Minnesota. So on behalf of the Joint Powers Board, the Workforce Development Board, and my staff, we would like to present Commissioner Phoebe with the 5-year Eagle Award. So I'm going to read that Eagle Award. Commissioner Phoebe, this Eagle Award is a commitment to leadership excellence. We hereby express our sincere appreciation to Commissioner Lisa Phoebe for 5 years of service, embracing the challenges of workforce development, as you know there's a lot of those, and for outstanding leadership to the Central Minnesota Joint Powers Board of Commissioners and the Central Minnesota Workforce Development Board serving Workforce Service Area 5. Chisago, Isanti, Kennebec, Candy, Ojai, McLeod, Meeker, Mille Lacs, Pine, Redville, Sherburne, and Wright counties. Above the eagle's head, these are written. Excellence is never an accident. It is always the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, skillful execution, and the vision to see obstacles as opportunities. This is presented to you on behalf of the board. You know that Commissioner Rick Green has signed this. He is the chair of the Joint Powers Board, Lauren Nelson, who was our chair of the Workforce Development Board, and myself and my staff. So Tricia, could you just hand this so I can keep going forward? Thank you so much. You are absolutely awesome.
Didn't know that was happening. Thank you.
Surprise. I couldn't put it in the thing because I didn't want you to know. So, but congratulations. This, for those of you that don't know where we're located and all of the service area, is this kind of a greenish gray in the middle. And we're local Workforce Development Area 5. And so we have 14 sites up here, but Monticello is our corporate office, and it's also our comprehensive center. So, and then Elk River, we just want to thank you, our Health and Human Services. I don't know if they're here in the audience, but they are incredible, and they do such a great job, as you well know. And we are great partners, and they leased us some space. So our staff and their staff could better serve our community. So thank you very much for that. In your right-hand part of your packet, you have some black packets there. You have a couple of things. You have the annual report that's there that talks to you, that presents all of our services, et cetera, over this last year. And then the demographics. And you've asked me to have Luke Reiner fill this out and give this to you because you can take this to any of your board meetings so that you have all this data at your hand. So that's what the Sherburne County demographics are to the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, you're going to find a larger copy so you can actually see it. And that is our schedule of insurances. And at the very bottom, you're going to see where it says policy type cyber. I can tell you that you asked us to at least have a $2 million cyber policy, and we did that. And nothing is more important right now than the cyber security, because I think I get hacked every day, and sometimes 4 or 5 times a day. And I know that each one of you are experiencing that. If you're a business, if you are, in any kind of business or even at home, you get hacked. So just so you know, Lisa is covered. Commissioner is covered. And then right in the middle, it talks to you about, or it presents, the policy type is a management liability, and that's directors and officers insurance. Among the other insurances, that's really important because our Joint Powers Board members are covered under that as well. Now I hand it over to Tricia, and she is going to introduce herself and present the fiscal part of it.
Good morning. I am Tricia Bigwit. I am the Director of Finance with Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. So every year our auditors come out. They do a on-site or a remote review of all of our client files, all of our financial statements, all of our general ledger transactions. They did it remotely this year, so they were there for about a month that they spent poring over our records, and instead of the week that they're normally there. And they reviewed 82 grants that we did in-house. And we do the financial statements in-house so that they're able to provide us with an unmodified opinion. They're able to come in, truly audit our financial statements and make sure that they're accurate and correct. So if you go to page 22, you can see the summary of our results. You can read the whole audit if you'd like. But on page 22, it shows the summary that they were able to find no material weaknesses, no issues of concern. They didn't have any discrepancies compared to what we had, so they were able to provide an unmodified, clean audit opinion this year. So they will come in October and start auditing our financial statements for this fiscal year that just ended June 30th. And so we're already gearing up for that information to provide them. So if you have any questions, you can let me know. Otherwise, that's all that I have for you.
Thanks, Tricia.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Dina Warnes. I am one of the program managers at Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, and I manage our adult, which is our Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act WIOA grant for our adults, as well as dislocated workers. And then I also manage our public assistance programs, which includes the Minnesota Family Investment Program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Employment and Training, and then our Diversionary Work Program. I want to talk briefly about our adult and dislocated worker programs. These are available to individuals who meet eligibility criteria for our programs. First, we have, as I stated, our WIOA adult program, and we do have a priority of service. We receive funding from the Department of Labor in order to serve individuals who are either unemployed or underemployed and are in need of additional resources and assistance to help secure employment. With our adult programs, criteria or our priority of service is typically 75% of our enrollments must be low income. We define low income as the federal poverty guidelines based on their family size. So if they're low income or basic skills deficient, meaning they have low reading and math skills, they meet that priority of service for us. With our state and WIOA dislocated worker program, those programs are available to individuals who lose their job due to no fault of their own. That might be something along the lines of a large layoff, maybe a company closes in the area. It might also be just a 1 or 2 person layoff. Maybe an individual just doesn't fit the job very well and they're let go. As long as they're eligible for unemployment insurance, we can go ahead and serve them with that dislocated worker program. Some of the services we provide first are career planning and counseling. With that, they meet with an employment specialist. That employment specialist can help the individual identify their strengths, their skills, where they might have some gaps in finding their next job. We can take a look at training opportunities. Maybe the individual needs some updating of skills, certifications, training program through a post-secondary school or a vocational school. We also help with job search assistance. Sometimes when an individual is looking for work, they haven't had to do so in a very long time, and it's scary to start over. So one of the things we'll do is help them identify their skills and their strengths again. We'll help them identify positions available in the community. We'll match their skills to particular employers. We have business service coordinators with CMJTS that have wonderful relationships with the employers in our county. So they're able to be that liaison for our job seekers. And then we do have some limited support services available for individuals, and those are financial dollars to help eliminate the challenges or the barriers that get in the way of going back to work. An example of that might be just needing some interview clothing when I'm looking for work. We can help with some of those expenses. The other thing that we wanted to talk about today then is our Minnesota Family Investment Program. So we have been providing the employment and training programs, as Barb stated, for 38 years here in Sherburne County. And just last year, we identified that there was a potential gap in services. And what that gap included was those Sherburne County residents who live in that St. Cloud area. There's a tiny little chunk that's up there in St. Cloud. And we have a whole lot of individuals in the St. Cloud area who struggle with that transportation to get back and forth either to Elk River or to our Monticello location. So we did a little bit of research and we identified that we needed an individual housed in St. Cloud. So we were able to lease some space at that St. Cloud Career Force Center. We're available. It's on the bus route for our residents that live in Sherburne County. And we hired an individual who was able to speak the Somali language because a high number of our St. Cloud individuals are Somali. So Yassine Ali, he's one of our employment specialists here. He's here to share with you today one of our success stories.
Hello, everyone. So on our success story, we have our participant, Ifrah Mure. Our Sherburne County is located at the Career Force St. Cloud office. Challenges included job searching 35 hours per week and doing some so with limited English skills. Ifrah is currently working full-time at Dubo Textile, which is not far away from where she lives. As for public assistance, her DWP grant has closed and she remains gainfully employed. Without the help of my ES, she claims, Yassine, things would have been difficult. I am thankful for the support from CMJTS and Yassine for always being there when I needed them the most. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yassine. Diana Ristamaki is our youth program manager at CMJTS, and Diana is not here today. We do have youth information in your packets. There's a program, what we call our youth program eligibility. It lists all of the different programs available to youth and young adults. We serve individuals with our youth programs age 14 to 24. We do have funding available. Typically, we're serving at-risk youth, youth that are in need of additional services in order to find a career and go to work. One of the things that we did this summer, the youth programs worked with partners in Sherburne County, and they did a youth operation exploration hands-on camp. So they had all kinds of information there. They had instructors on site. It was a huge camp, went on for a week. They were able to have 15 youth attend that session. They learned all kinds of information regarding healthcare. They got to practice kind of like doing sutures and stitches and that kind of thing. They were able to watch some videos on different things that happen in the career. They just got a really nice, immersive, hands-on experience with healthcare professions in the area. And then as well, they did a trades camp, and at that trades camp, that included a lot of our manufacturing positions, welding. They were able to get into a simulator and do some welding. With our workforce development division, that's Leslie Witowitz, our program manager, and what she works on is bringing in funding to the agency. She has money available to help businesses in Sherburne County. With our businesses, we can provide what we call incumbent worker training. Sometimes we have individuals, or I should say employers or businesses, who need to skill up their current employees in order to avoid a layoff, or in order to increase their competitiveness so that they can increase that, that income into the business. So with that, we do have the incumbent worker dollars available. The program is business-driven. We work with providers, training providers in the area to ensure that businesses are upskilled with employees that can continue to meet the needs they have. Any questions?
I just
Okay.
had a comment that I want to thank you. I've had a lot of people from my community that have used your services and have always had nothing but high praises for what you've been able to do to help them get back in the field or transition from one job to the next. So I want to thank you for all you do.
Great, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a few comments, of course. Proud to serve on the board, the Joint Powers Board, and I also serve on the Workforce Development Board currently, which our Dan served on for a number of years. It's a really great group of people that bring great things to our community. I want to give a shout out to our principal, Bob Dockendorf from Big Life. He also serves on that board, and a few other Sherburne County leaders that are on that board, and just want to highlight our Wellness in the Workplace event that's coming up at the end of September. I sent the link to some of my colleagues here, and we sent it countywide, so that is a great event that's coming up that Bob and I and some others on the Government Relations Committee has been working on. So Government and Community Relations, I think, is the name of that. So I just wanted to highlight that. But thanks for the work. I had an experience in the last couple of years of a family member that needed the services, and I was very impressed with all that's available. And again, when I asked the Initiative Foundation, how do people know about you? I think we are kind of a secret that unless you're connected to a county or you might not know about it. So I think, again, we all can take that charge to be ambassadors when we connect with people that might be in need of the services. So thank you for the presentation.
Yes, thank you so much. I've never heard anything but very positive comments about all the work that you do, and it's really wonderful to see you here presenting today. Thank you so much. Okay, now we can go on to 5.3, which is to consider approval of an interim use permit for mining for Tiller Corporation, and we have Lynn with us today. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. These are the items from the August 18th Planning Commission public hearing. First item, as you mentioned, is Tiller Corporation. This is owned by Capital Land Group LLC. It's on 155 acres is what they're going to actually mine of a 162-acre piece of property. It's in the General Rural District. It's in the Shoreline Overlay District of Rice Lake on a natural environment lake, and it's in Livonia Township. This is just north of the existing landfill. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 25 recommended conditions and the findings of fact.
I'll move approval for the recommendation with the conditions and the findings of fact.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is passed.
The next item is the request for a decision on an EAW for the Oaks of Battle Brook. This is 10 lots that they're proposing at this time. The project is a total of 109 acres. At this time, they were just platting 30 of it. It's up in Baldwin Township, in the General Rural District, and within the Shoreland District of Battle Brook, an unnamed natural environment lake. Planning Commission recommended a negative declaration on the need for the EIS for the proposed subdivision. And in your packet, there's also the findings and the summary and a resolution that we'll need to have signed by the county board chair. So we're looking for a negative declaration on the need for an EIS.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded for a negative declaration. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
The next item is Betzler Builders. This is the property owner of Joss Johndal, requesting preliminary and final plat approval of Wire Addition. This is 2 lots. It's on 16.35 acres in Baldwin Township in the General Rural Zoning District and the Shoreland Overlay District of Long Pond. And there are 3 conditions that are listed in your packet for this.
I'll move approval with the 3 conditions listed.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. So now we can move on to 5.6.
And that would be Andrew Davis. Property owner is Andrew and Amanda Davis. They're requesting a conditional use permit for a personal storage structure. This is in Palmer Township on almost 33 acres in the Ag District and the Shoreline Overlay District of Briggs Lake. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 5 conditions and the findings of fact.
Madam Chair, I'll recommend approval with the 5 conditions, or move approval, sorry.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
So now we'll move on to 5.7. And we have review and consider adoption of Great Northern Trail Master Plan. And Gina Hugo is with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We are pretty excited to be at the place we're at now. As you're well aware, extending the Great Northern Trail along the entire historic railroad grade from Elk River to Malacca has been a long-time vision for our communities, and work on that began long before my time here. However, that energy and momentum led the county to construct the most recent extension from Elk River to Zimmerman in 2019. And in late 2021, we entered into an MOU with partner communities, including Mille Lacs County and the cities of Princeton, Zimmerman, and Elk River, to work together as partners to develop a master plan to be used for application for regional designation through the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. And this regional designation is an eligibility requirement for applying for and receiving legacy funds for Parks and Trails in Greater Minnesota. That funding would allow us to construct future segments of the Great Northern Trail. The master planning process was very much characterized by public engagement with community members and trail user groups, townships, and cities along the trail corridor. And the master planning process was facilitated by landscape architect Andrew Montgomery, who is a senior associate with Damon Farber, and Andrew's going to lead us through an overview of the draft master plan. So I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Excellent. Welcome.
All right, so I'm going to set a timer. We have about 15 minutes. I'll try to keep this to 10 and leave 5 minutes for questions. So good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to review the Great Northern Trail Master Plan and consider it for adoption. The Great Northern Trail was completed in collaboration with the agencies shown on the bottom right-hand corner of this slide. Sherburne County, Mille Lacs County, City of Elk River, City of Zimmerman, and City of Princeton. The project was led by Sherburne County with Gina Hugo serving as the project manager and champion for this project. I don't think it would have happened without her. I'd also like to thank all the members of the Partnership Committee for their diligent work over the last 6 months. We met twice monthly to review the progress on the plan and held 3 public open houses and conducted numerous outreach events to gather input from key stakeholders. So the agenda for today, we'll have a brief introduction of the project, talk about vision and trends. We set some goals early on. We'll review some of the public input and participation, review the master plan, and I didn't include any slides on implementation, but if there's any questions from the overall master plan, we can review that. I wanted to start out with some frequently asked questions. So what is the timeline for the plan? It is a long-term vision, 25 to 30 years. Requiring additional analysis, some public improvements and final design. Early phases of the trail are anticipated to begin within the next 3 to 5 years. Who will pay for the trail? The trail will be funded through grants from state and federal sources, and Gina touched on that earlier. Those grants do require some matching funds to be eligible and competitive. What does this mean for private property owners? There are segments of the historic rail alignment under private ownership. Approximately 35 parcels in the 20-mile trail corridor. The trail will be developed under a willing seller approach and will need to be phased as property easements become available. There is a near-term option that utilizes public right-of-way along Highway 45 or 128th Street Northwest between Zimmerman and Princeton, and we'll review those segments in more detail later on. And will it be safer for me to walk and bike in the area in the future? Yes, the plan calls for intersection improvements on busy corridors, enhanced connectivity and safety for pedestrians and cyclists. So kind of zooming out and looking at the regional significance of this project, there are 2 other trails that have approved master plans and are regionally designated, the Great River Regional Trail along the Mississippi and the Plains to Port Trail. And this trail, I think, is uniquely poised to create this 100-mile loop between St. Cloud, Elk River, and Malacca. So that's kind of the grander vision of what this regional trail system could become. Zooming into the Great Northern Trail specifically, there's about 8.5 miles built between Elk River and Zimmerman, and this study looked at the remaining sections from Zimmerman up to Malacca. There is a small segment that's built south of Princeton, and here you can see a breakdown of the different agencies and ownerships of that trail. So roughly 5.5 miles would be in Sherburne County. There's about 2 miles of private land that would need to be acquired. There's also an option to go around that within the public right-of-way. City of Zimmerman, City of Princeton, Mille Lacs County, and actually from Princeton to Malacca, it's primarily in public ownership. So the guiding principles, we set these early on. These are important as we can use these to validate the plan as we move forward through design. And we actually ask community members to rank these as for priority. In the top three, I have them listed here. Number 3 was elevate safety. Number 2 was build responsibly for nature. And number 1 was embrace inclusivity. So engagement. Through the master plan, we started in early 2021 with an initial public engagement process to identify different route alternates. We had, through some of these segments, 5 or 6 different route alternates that we had people vote on. We had an initial launch of the project webinar. Phoebe attended. We had a great turnout, about 80 residents at that second open house. And then through our outreach sessions, we've reached over 100 people. Our online surveys, I think on average, had between 80 and 100 people contributing to that. During, this is post-COVID, we had to have asynchronous opportunities for engagement as well. So diving into the master plan in more detail, so this is showing the different segments along the trail. So between Zimmerman and Princeton, that's where the majority of private ownership was located. And so we had an A segment and a B segment. The A segment ran along the existing historic railroad corridor, and the B segment ran along Highway 45. As I mentioned earlier, that B segment, we're thinking it would be the initial phase, so that portion of the trail would get constructed, and as easement opportunities become available in the A segment, that would be purchased, and that off-road multi-use trail would be built. And when I say multi-use trail, that's bike and pedestrian. The northern segments from Princeton to Malacca, we heard that there is a desire to have ATVs off-road use, and it is a 100-foot wide corridor. So it's a very generous right-of-way to build a trail, and we think there's enough room in that area that you could do an ATV two-way trail, a buffer, and then have a multi-use trail next to that. And so there would be a vegetated buffer between the two, and they would actually be grade separated. So we have some visualizations of what that looks like as well. Oh. Let me click on the PDF, maybe that will get us running here again.
Is that too nice?
All right. So this is the segment from, we're calling North Zimmerman. There's 3 segments between Zimmerman and Princeton. And so you can see here the dashed lines are private properties. And in this area, we have, I think, about 10 private parcels that would need to be purchased. We heard from some private property owners that they've made investments on the railroad corridor. So there's structures, buildings that have been built within that 100-foot right-of-way. We heard from one resident that has horses on the property, that the trail would bisect their property and it would be infeasible for them to have their horse farm there. So really this is, that A segment is a long-term vision when they become willing to sell those easements. We also are showing a trailhead in Zimmerman. We did these conceptual renderings to just get people excited about the project, some of the amenities that would be brought into the trail corridor. So we're showing, looking towards the future with the increase in e-bike usage, having e-bike charging stations, EV, electric vehicle charging stations, restroom facilities, shelters, wayfinding signage. And this location is also used as a park and ride, so we had to expand parking to serve both for park and ride and for trailhead users. And this is, you can see the trailhead symbol on the bottom of the page, so it's in the existing Lions Park. And this is the typical trail section that we were proposing. So this is the 100-foot right-of-way We do utilize about 10-foot width for the trail, and then we have reaction zones on the side of the trail, which would be a mowed edge of about 2 foot. And there you can see the character in this section is it's wooded. There's some really beautiful clearings, really large existing oaks. And as we develop the trail, we'd want to be really cautious around working around existing vegetation. And then this is the Highway 45 alternative. So we would have a 8-foot buffer from the shoulder to the proposed trail. And we do have a 100-foot right-of-way in this area, so we feel like there's enough room to fit the multi-use trail. We have utilities that are running overhead, but we drove this whole segment and ground truth to make sure that it would fit in there. Segment 2, it's very similar to segment 1. Again, we have the A segment and the B segment. You can see the dashed lines, which are private property sections. I didn't mention this before, but the red circles, the red dashed circles, are indicating high volume crossings. So we would have rapid flashing beacons at those crossings. And there is one location up near Malacca where we'd propose a grade separated crossing. Segment 3, we have 3 options here. We heard from a private property owner, kind of where there's a note that says the shoulder of 45 narrows, that the trail would get in close proximity to their house. And so we are recommending this 3C segment that actually utilizes an existing off-street trail to get around that portion. And then in Princeton, we biked through Princeton to ground truth this alignment, but we think it's important to bring the trail through the central business district. Running out of time here, so I'll make the rest of this brief. But bring the trail through the central business district to give trail users access to amenities and to boost the business, the economics within downtown Princeton. And then we are showing another alternative that brings the trail out to amenities like Coburn's grocery store and Walmart on the west side of town. A trailhead concept here, this also functions as a MnDOT park and ride, so expanding parking for trail users and also functioning for a park and ride, an additional crossing on the north or on the east side of this roundabout, and a similar level of amenities. On-street bike lanes within Princeton, we think we can just use sharrows through the majority of the residential streets. They're low enough volume. And then along Rum River Drive, where we do have a decent amount of traffic volume and higher speeds, so 45, 55 miles an hour, we're recommending a buffered bike lane. North of Princeton, this segment is characterized by basically a wooded corridor on the west side of Highway 169. So we'd want to preserve as much of that woodland as possible. It provides a nice buffer from the road. And these are the 2 options that I mentioned before. This would be just the bike trail along Highway 169, and then the inclusion of the ATV trail. And then moving north to the final trailhead, the terminus of the trail in Malacca, we're showing a trailhead in Rec Park, which provides access. There's a splash pad there. There's mountain bike trails. There's a boat launch. So one thing I didn't mention, but there's a blue trail loop that could be done between Malacca and Princeton, where you could drop a car off, or you could drop a bike off down in Princeton, drive up with your canoe, float all the way down, get on your bike, and bike the trail back up to your car. So there's a unique opportunity to do kind of an extended recreational blue trail with biking.
Triathlon. We could host a triathlon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll open it up to questions. I know we just have a few minutes.
Anyone?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
you mentioned, now these trails are going to be for walkers, ATVs?
North of Princeton, it would be both ATV and walkers, cyclists. And then south of Princeton, it would, in Sherburne County, it would only be for bike and pedestrians.
Okay, what kind, now you have a charger for electric bikes?
We are proposing bike charging stations at these facilities, just knowing the increased popularity of e-bikes.
So electric bikes would be allowed, a motorized bike would not?
E-bikes, there's a few different classes of e-bikes. So bikes that are limited to 20 miles per hour, we've seen have been allowed on other trails in Minnesota.
Okay, so it's not how they're propelled, it's how their speed.
Their speed, correct.
So if it was a gas motor and it was,
No, there would be no motorized, gas motorized vehicles allowed on the section in Sherburne County.
that would create an issue for me.
Yeah,
So,
I'm an avid cyclist. I bike to work every day, and I know the challenges of having someone just kind of cruise past you at 25 miles an hour.
my issue is that we're designating it has to be electric rather than gas. That would be my issue. They're all the same, so, but that's.
Sure.
Anyone else? I would just, go ahead. You go.
Just a few comments. So obviously this goes through a part of my district, so I've been involved, and I really appreciate the involvement of the other commissioners when they've had time to do that. Is the public survey still open?
It is not.
Or it's closed now?
Yep.
Okay, so that was a question. And then, yes, the 35 parcels that are privately owned we've heard from many of them, and I think Gina's met with most of them, over time, and I appreciate our sensitivity. I appreciate our goals from the start, that we weren't going to be about forcing people to share their property with us. So this process has been sensitive. I've heard from a number of those homeowners, and they just this last weekend spoke to two of them, and they are very appreciative with how they're being treated in all of this. And so I'm grateful for that. I know they were guiding principles that we all came up with, but so I really am grateful for our staff and the way that those homeowners are being respected. They're feeling that. They're grateful that it's a 25, 30-year process, that maybe someday we might be able to have access or a partnership with it differently, but for now, we're not looking to force anyone to give up their property for this. So, thank you.
And Madam Chair, I appreciate the having this be obviously a long-range plan and a vision, because without starting with a plan or vision, you're not going to get anywhere. It's putting puzzle pieces together. And when I look at the mapping and the opportunity that the future of this trail can provide, and then the opportunity at other connections that can be made in our region, in our area, in regards to connecting communities through the wildlife refuge that can have then the connection to the trail. I just think it would provide a really, really awesome opportunity for people to engage in being able to get out and about without necessarily a car, and see a lot of things and opportunities to do, like you said. I'm not quite sure if that would be me kayaking and then biking back. But I know there's people out there that would welcome that opportunity. So I think it's a very, very good plan.
Thank you. Yeah, a few points in there that I missed when we were going through the plan, but within 3 miles of the trail, there are 48,000 residents that would benefit from the construction of the trail, and that's where 75% of trail users come from, or is within that 3-mile buffer from the trail. And then there's also important connections over to Graham's Regional Park, the Wildlife Refuge. There's interpretive opportunities in the historic town of Brickton. So there's a lot of really nuanced little parts of the trail and stronger connections that could be made. So thank you for the comments.
Like I said, it's a vision of putting a puzzle together. It's going to take some
Exactly.
time to get it together, but
Yep.
it's a good start.
So a few other comments. So some of the people that stopped at some of the public gatherings or that have talked to us over the years, it's also just a great economic development piece for our county. There are trails up north, that little ice cream shop, which never had hardly anyone in the door. Now they can't keep ice cream in their shop because a trail now is going near their shop, for example. So we heard stories of economic booms to little small towns that never knew that would happen. So
I think Lanesboro is a good example of that.
Lanesboro.
And now it's a destination.
We see that in our own county with snowmobile trails too.
Yep.
Little communities get connected. And if they were there on snowmobile, they might figure it's worth the drive to go to Palmer, Minnesota someday.
Yep.
Very true. My comment is my kids and I used to bike the back roads from Elk River to Princeton because I worked in Princeton and I had family north of Princeton. So I'm happy to see that we're getting this far because this is a little shorter than that was. And it was lots of fun, but it also was a little dangerous on side roads. And it was about a 30-mile trip from where I live to where my sister lives, so one way. So I'm really excited about this for the next generation and for those of us who still bike and so forth. So, any further discussion? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve and adopt the plan?
I'll make that motion to approve and adopt the Great Northern Trail Master Plan.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and ear and comments very much. So thanks.
Thanks, Gina.
Thank you for all your work on this.
And I think that segues into the next agenda item. So I'll just stay put.
Okay. 5.8, consider approval of resolution number, and the number is there, supporting a Greater Minnesota Regional Trail designation application for the Great Northern Trail.
So as I mentioned earlier, one of the major goals of the master plan was to use it to apply for regional designation. So we're asking the board's consideration and approval of a resolution to apply for regional designation through the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. The Sherburne County would be the lead applicant along with co-applicants of our partner communities, Mille Lacs County, Zimmerman, Princeton, and Elk River.
Okay.
Forgive my memory on this thing, but doesn't the Great Northern Trail already have regional designation on the south side?
It does not.
It didn't get it. Okay.
It did rank high, but it didn't receive designation.
Got it. Okay. So it's been applied for, just not received.
Well, it hasn't been applied for, but it was ranked.
Gotcha.
So there's a kind of a two-step application where you apply and it gets ranked and you're invited to apply for real, so to speak.
Got it. Thank you.
So I will make the motion to approve resolution number 090622-AD-3034, supporting an application to designate the Great Northern Trail as a Great Minnesota Regional Trail.
Okay, motion's been made. Would anyone like to make a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, too.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 5.9, which is to receive American Rescue Plan Act update and consider approval of recommended expenditures. And Dan is with us.
Good morning, Commissioners. This week we have 4 biweekly expenditures that are under the $50,000 threshold for a total of $48,240.79. I'd be looking for a motion on those 4 expenses.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made to approve the biweekly expenditures that Dan just made.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
And this week we also do have 1 expense over the $50,000 threshold for an IT storage project, and I'll turn it over to Brian Cameron for that explanation.
Hi,
Hello.
welcome.
Good morning, Board and Madam Chair. So IT storage project. So within the IT environment, we have an on-site cloud, if you would, that has different servers and applications for our departments. On a 5 to 6 year rotational basis, we replace the storage for that cloud environment. It is now time for that investment. In discussions with the ARPA group, it was something the ARPA funds would be able to cover for us. So IT has gone there for the requests, and in our process of budgeting, we have not made any requests for levy dollars for this project. So IT is requesting $250,000 for a one-time expense replacement that has roughly a 6-year lifespan within our compute environment.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motions are made and seconded to approve the IT storage project of $250,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board, and ARPA Committee.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
We also have 2 nonprofit grants that are on the agenda for discussion. If you recall, we had an application period back in April. Both the WAVE and Promise Neighborhood applied, and the scopes didn't quite fit their program parameters, so we have been working with them over the last several weeks and months, and we think we have programs that now fit what the guidelines were, and descriptions of each program were included in your board packet. So we'd be looking for a motion of approval for both of those grant opportunities.
Can we move them together, or do you need them separate?
We can move them separate. I should say that the original resolution creating the program was for a minimum of $500,000. This would put us at $669,590 if approved. So we did hit that minimum threshold with our last grants, and this would put us over that threshold, but we would not need a new resolution because of the language.
Okay. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve item number 1, which is the WAVE for $36,600?
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made to approve item 1. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the WAVE request for $36,600. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to thank Dan for working with the WAVE in their efforts to try to bring mental health opportunities by providing a mental health person in their program. And so I appreciate you working with them so we can help them with that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
Now the Promise Neighborhood.
You got one more, right?
Yep, Promise Neighborhood. We did them separate.
You can keep walking, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the Promise Neighborhood request for $125,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
No, thank you.
Okay. Now we can move on to item 5.10.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Mike's been waiting here. He's pretty excited. So go ahead, Mike, tell us about the training and his surprise scholarship award late last week.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm looking for consideration and approval for a out-of-state trip to Annapolis, Maryland. The VFW is putting on their annual training of veteran service officers. There was 10 scholarships awarded, and Minnesota got 4 of them. Training would be on claims process, appeals, different things like that. Not very many opportunities come for this type of training, so.
Madam Chair, a motion approval?
Okay, motion's been made to approve this request. Is
I'll
there a
second.
second? Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
No, I asked that we handle this during the course of, some of these things, when they pop up, I don't think it's appropriate for us to put them onto a consent agenda. It's better if we deal with them like this, in my mind. So thanks for the consideration of doing
Yep, I think it's good for the public to hear too.
It's good for us
what
to
it
hear,
is that is going to happen. And it's a great opportunity for you. I think you're going to learn a lot. Not that you don't know enough already, but.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for serving the county and the people, especially our little town of Zimmerman, so well.
Thank you.
Mike.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. So motion's passed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can recess our regular meeting, take a break for how long should we do? 10 minutes? Okay, so we'll be back at 10:40 or 10:38, something like that. Okay, thank you. So we will reconvene and open our Regional Rail Authority meeting. And we'll, 7.1, approve proposed agenda for Sherburne County Regional Rail Authority. Manager, I'll make that motion. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda for the Sherburne County Regional Rail Authority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is passed. So then we can move on to approving, there's items there, 1, 2, and 3, approve the minutes. So if we have to approve the minutes.
Yep, item 7.2 is a recommendation to approve the minutes of the January 18th meeting.
Okay. Good.
I'll move approval.
Motion's been made to approve the Regional Rail Authority meeting minutes from January 18th. Is there, 2022, is there a second?
Second it.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Now we'll move on to 7.3 to consider approval of resolution 090622-RRA-54, setting the preliminary levy of the 2023 Regional Rail Authority.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval. It's my last chance at it.
Motion's been made to approve this resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Do you want to clarify that was for 0?
Zero levy.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, now we can move on to 8.1, which is consider resolution 090622-AD-3033, setting the 2023 preliminary levy for the Regional Rail Authority. And that would also be proposed as being $0.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Okay, so now we are on agenda item 10.1.
9.
Commissioner
10.9, I've got,
Correspondence by commissioners.
sorry, I didn't have that in my. Okay, so now we can move ahead. So we adjourn the Rail Authority meeting, that's what I have to do first. Okay, and then reconvene our regular meeting. And now, we can go ahead with commissioner correspondence. Who would like to start?
Sorry, microphone is off. Apologies. CMRP and EDA were my only things since last board meeting.
Madam Chair, on September 23rd, I had a CMRP executive meeting. On the 24th, had a sub-coalition meeting and also met with Wright County on CMRP and some of the things that we're looking at doing moving forward. Also met with a couple about a land issue. On the 25th, we had our CMRP meeting. We did move some items. We did give a 30-day notice to one of our existing consultants and thank them for their service on getting us to where we are. And we are ready now to move on to the next step. And also continued with, by an hourly rate, with William Kemp and his services to assist on this next step. We are looking at developing a language for a request for proposal to work on a purpose and needs process, and also looking to see the next steps in moving towards the NEPA process. So that's coming along. Also on the 26th, and that'll come back for more further discussion at the board level between Wright County and Sherburne County when that's necessary. The 26th, met with a county resident about HOAs. On the 30th, attended the chamber meeting. And on the 31st, I was happy to be able to be asked to help with the middle school open house. It's good to see all the little faces ready to get back at it.
I had a ISD 728 Community Partners meeting at their new Otsego school. It's beautiful. TriCap Finance Board met and the TriCap Board of Directors. I participated in the Faith Community Outreach gathering with the Sheriff's Office and the County Attorney's Office, and the date for that I will get to you. Actually, it's November 2nd. We'll be having the Faith and Community Outreach gathering here with all the pastoral leadership in our county. Participated in the County Park System Planning meeting, and then I've had a number of Futures planning meetings. Futures meets this Thursday and Friday, so I will be out of the office for those 2 days.
County EDA meeting attended, and Tri-County Solid Waste. Still quite a bit of discussion about the relationship with Pope Douglas and how that's going to work out. I think the thing for us that is good is we limited our involvement and have backed off on our responsibility to that contract. We still have some, but it's minor and it's easy for us to manage, so that's all.
Okay, and on the 17th, I went to the school safety meeting, and then in the evening, it was Fair Board meeting. On the 18th, in the morning, there was a regional MDT meeting, and in the afternoon, there was a APT-MT meeting here. And then in the evening, there was a PAC meeting. So then on the first was the Council on Aging meeting in the morning, and then a TAMI meeting in the afternoon, which was here. And that's it, I guess. Okay, so then we can adjourn our regular meeting and open our workshop. And our workshop, first one is for ARP priority discussion.